The alien beings we know as predators are depicted as a hunter species, equipped with advanced technology. They follow a strict code of hunting rules. They travel to many worlds in search of the ultimate prey. To find an enemy that would push their skills to their limits. Bound by honor and tradition, these hunters are formidable opponents in combat. What we see on film is only the partial side about these hunters. The novels, comic books, and video games all tend to expand on the Predator universe. By including new information, sequels, and backstories, we can learn more about them. Not only are they hunters, but we have learned they do have a hierarchy and social system. This video will cover various aspects of the predators, such as ancient or elder predators, what started the Civil War from the early days of the Yautja species, the story of Dutch's brother and his encounter with the predators, a glimpse of the legendary Serpent hunter and Lord Predator, some topics around Dutch and Blaine from the first movie, killer predators that hunt other Yautjas, the human predator known as Machiko Noguchi, a deeper look into their weapons and technology, the story of Noland before the Predators movie, and more. Because I've covered so many topics on this franchise in the past, this video will be 1 hour long. It's also part 2 of this special series. I want to bring up some older topics that some fans may have missed, so these 1 hour videos make it easier to catch up. And for your convenience, timestamps are available, so you can jump to a topic of interest. Just be sure to leave a like on the video. Thank you and enjoy. Elders are Yautja warriors that have proven to be skillful warriors in battle, or are given this title by displaying great leadership. In both cases of Predator 2 and Alien vs. Predator, both elder predators give a human a gift to someone who has defeated a predator or has fought bravely alongside them. The one in Predator 2 was called Greyback, or the Golden Angel. He seemed to have a slim build with similar body armor and some small skull ornaments. His face seemed to have protruding spikes, and his dreadlocks had platings in more areas than a normal predator would have. Although this elder predator was not wearing a mask, I'm really curious to see what it would have looked like. This clan leader commanded a small group of experienced hunters that were later labeled as the Lost Clan. So the other elder predator we saw was an Alien vs. Predator from 2004. Now this one was classified as being an ancient predator, possibly because he's been around for an extremely long time. He had more visible spikes on his face, longer dreadlocks, slightly different armor plating, and a biomask with markings on it. He also wore a cape, and the combi stick he offered to Lex was heavily modified with extra blades, ornaments, and serrated edges. This clan leader was in command of a large ship and a large group of younger predators. Another elder predator was seen in the video game Predator Concrete Jungle. He commanded a mothership and also wore a red cape. Although many clans may have leaders, not all of them are considered elders or ancients. Now we've seen experienced hunters throughout the movies and video games, but I think it's time we saw an elder predator on film. Considering they've been around longer than the others, their skills must be uncomparable to normal predator hunters. So how different would an elder predator be in combat? Would it have more strength, better agility, and how enhanced are their weapons? This is something I'd really like to see explored sometime in the future, because we've seen young predators, we've seen elite predators, we've seen super predators, but we have yet to see an elder or an ancient predator fight on film. So what are your opinions on this topic? Would you like to see an elder predator fight in a movie or video game? Put your thoughts in the comment section. Who started the war between the honorable predators and the super predators? Now this story took place over 4,000 years ago when all Yautja lived and hunted together without feuds. It is during this time that we are introduced to the Nightstorm Predator, also known as the Scarab Predator. Nightstorm participated in one of the first hunts against the Xenomorphs in Egypt, but it was during this time where he started to disagree with the Yautja Code of Honor. He felt these rules gave too much power and importance to the prey they hunted. Nightstorm felt that all prey is equal and they should not be spared under any circumstances. He abandoned the Yautja Code of Honor and hunted by his own rules and desires. It was at this point when the ancient feud between tribes began. The honorable Yautja and the dishonorable super predators began clan wars against one another until most of the super predators were banished from Yautja Prime, the predator homeworld. Over time, the legend of Nightstorm grew amongst those who agreed with his dishonorable hunting rules. This eventually led him to becoming a super elder predator amongst those who served him. He set out on a mission to unite the rest of the super predator tribe. Because of their banishment from Yautja Prime, they agreed to hunt other predators who did not follow their ways. Nightstorm had a lot of influence on other predators to follow in his footsteps, and thus, the feud between these tribes never ended and continues to this day. The story went down in legend that made Nightstorm the first super predator to begin the feud between tribes that separated them. Nightstorm's biomask had a very unique design similar to the Egyptian god Anubis. There are 2 sockets on the biomask for his mandibles to slip through, which will expose his mandibles. His armor was mostly gold, with a few areas being made of copper. The plasma caster was modified to shoot rapidly like a Gatling gun. His wrist blades were curved. His staff was also gold with a human skull and spinal cord attached to it. Now, the original design of Nightstorm was created by Kenner for the Predator toy line in the 90s. Then, NECA released their version with a small backstory attached to it. So, what do you think about the origins of the Super Predators and how their ancient feud started? Do you like the idea of Super Predators? Put your thoughts in the comment section. Hey, what's up everyone, Acid Glow here. So I went over the story of Dutch's brother a little bit in another video, although I mentioned him just very briefly, so I thought I'd revisit this character to give you guys a bigger understanding of his story within the Predator universe. So this video will cover the different comic books that Scheifer was in. So this character is a detective in New York City, and only goes by the name of Scheifer, while his brother from the first Predator movie is named Alan Dutch Scheifer. So Scheifer's story starts off with a predator killing some gang members in a building. As Scheifer arrives, he's told he's not allowed to go inside, but he goes anyways. He finds most of the gang members killed off, but is then shot at by one of the survivors. Scheifer takes cover, and this gang member jumps out of a window and escapes. Now as he exits the building, General Phillips is seen as he enters the crime scene. Then another crime occurs in the subway with a lot of people being killed. Scheifer sneaks in only to run to Captain McComb once again. Then General Phillips arrives and takes Scheifer with him to discuss a few things about his brother. Although General Phillips doesn't give Scheifer any solid leads about his brother's disappearance, he just advises him to drop the case, because these killers are extremely dangerous. Later on, Scheifer returns to the crime scene at the building and encounters a predator. They have a short hand-to-hand battle, and the predator plants a tracking device on Scheifer's neck. As their fight continues, Scheifer knocks the predator's biomask off, and then the predator throws him out the window. He grabs onto a laundry clothesline and falls on some garbage to soften his fall. He hands over the predator's biohelmet to his friend detective, Rash, and this is before it can be confiscated by other agents. Then he goes to Central America, where Dutch was last seen. He manages to locate the site where the jungle hunter set off its self-destruct bomb. During that night, he's tracked by a predator. They have a short battle, but Scheifer is able to knock the predator off a cliff and believes it is dead. At the same time, back in New York City, a fleet of predator ships arrives. Detective Rash can see them clearly through the predator's biomask. During these events, Scheifer is captured and taken hostage, but the camp is then attacked by a group of predators. Scheifer manages to escape when this occurs, and it is here when one predator records what its victim says before he kills it. The person says, "Mother of God," which is a line that the City Hunter uses in Predator 2 during the meat locker scene. Now, it's possible that this predator was in fact the City Hunter that also came to this jungle before the events of Predator 2. Afterwards, General Phillips arrives to pick up Scheifer. He mentions the predators have been coming here for centuries and mostly target places with a warm climate. They even hunted down the dinosaurs down to extinction, and then they looked for other prey. It turns out General Phillips was planning to hand over Scheifer to the predators so they don't attack New York City, but he escapes from them as they land. Then Scheifer strikes a deal with gang members to help him fight against the fleet of predators. They manage to defeat a few of them, but as air support arrives from the military, the Predators choose to retreat and leave the planet. Now, the story then continues when a Predator ship crashes in Siberia and a group of Predators kills a few men here. Reports about this make it back to General Phillips, and he orders his federal agents to kidnap Scheifer. He's asked to lead a special team to Siberia to deal with these Predators, and in return, Phillips will give him information about Dutch's disappearance. As his group arrives to an outpost in Siberia, they are apprehended by a Russian group. Now, while Scheifer talks to Lieutenant Ligachev about the situation, they both agree they should escape because they are both in a bad situation. And during their escape, the Predators locate them and they kill off a few of their people. Scheifer and this Russian soldier kill one of the Predators during this event. The whole point of this mission was for the Americans to get a hold of the Predator spacecraft to gain access to their advanced technology. As the two enter the Predator ship, they plant C4 explosives. Then they fight against a Predator as they make their way out. Then as a Predator spacecraft takes off, the C4 detonates and destroys all the evidence. Now, the last part of Scheifer's story is about another Predator in the jungle that he first went to. This Predator is killing anyone it comes across. It kills one group, but a survivor manages to escape with footage of the incident. At this point, Scheifer is still in New York City. He then meets up with a pilot named Mercer. Mercer tells him General Phillips recruited him to fly the chopper that picked up Dutch. And upon picking up Dutch, he was extremely ill and infected. Not knowing how infectious Dutch's condition was, General Phillips ordered to descend the chopper and drop Dutch off and leave him behind. Scheifer then kidnaps the prisoner, which is Mercer, and forces him back to the jungle to where they left Dutch. As they land at the airport, the military apprehends Scheifer, and the president informs them of a Predator in their jungle. Scheifer watches the video footage and realizes this was the Predator he thought he killed when he first came to this jungle long ago. It was still alive. Scheifer then gets a tracking device placed on his ankle and is forced to fight the Predator. Now Scheifer, Mercer, and a survivor named Lopez are thrown into the jungle and manage to hijack a boat. The Predator later appears and attacks them on a boat, but they manage to escape. Then they are attacked by local native people that live in the jungle. Scheifer gets injured in this process, so Lopez lets him rest, but then she gets kidnapped. Later on, Scheifer wakes up and locates the camp where the Predator is. He tries to save Mercer, but as he dies, he tells Scheifer that he lied about being the pilot. He was told by General Phillips to give a lie in order to make Scheifer come back to the jungle. Then the Predator appears and they have a long hand-to-hand battle. Near the end, Scheifer attaches his tracking device to the Predator's ankle and runs off. Then the Air Force is ordered to eliminate the target that they are tracking. They end up firing upon the Predator and drop a bomb on it to kill it. Scheifer's story ends as he locates General Phillips and holds him at gunpoint to tell him what happened to Dutch. So that's the story of Scheifer and his encounter with the Predators while searching for his brother Alan Dutch Scheifer. It was a pretty lengthy story, but I enjoyed it. He fought the Predator species multiple times and survived. So what did you think about Scheifer's story? Put your thoughts in the comment section. The Serpent Hunter, also known as the Alien Head Predator, is from an elite Yautja clan. Sources say that he was the most successful xenomorph hunter of all time. He had a fascination with the xenomorph species that he designed his biomask to resemble the head of a xenomorph. It was designed this way to reflect his many xenomorph kills during many hunts. He is known to use the biomask, wrist blades on each gauntlet, shurikens, and the ceremonial daggers that were in the Alien vs. Predator movie. He is listed to be 7'4" with black dreadlocks and is currently still alive. Stories say he is known to never remove his mask in front of his clan members, and has even picked up the tendency to act like a xenomorph during a hunt. On some occasions, the Serpent Hunter was even known to not use any vision modes to prove his skill didn't require it. He is seen during the ending sequence of the 2010 video game Alien vs. Predator, where he bows down to Dark, who is the main predator of the storyline. You can see the Serpent Hunter pictured on the left side. At this point, the Serpent Hunter is aboard the ship with the other predators and headed to the xenomorph homeworld to hunt more prey. This would be the perfect place for the elite hunter to hone his skills even further. Now, that is the only appearance this predator makes in the single-player campaign of this game, but you could also play as his character skin in the multiplayer, but he was only acquired as a pre-order back in 2010 for this video game. Now, although skins do not give you extra abilities, they are just cosmetic changes. Killer predators, ruthless, dishonorable, and able to control the xenomorph aliens. So the story takes place on a planet where some humans have settled down. We then see a Predator spacecraft land, and aliens come out and immediately start attacking all the humans here. Afterwards, a group of killer predators emerges. Their sole plan is to claim their dominance in the galaxy and to wipe out everyone who opposes them, even other clans. The predators in this story are bad bloods, and seem to have some kind of control over the xenomorphs. At this point, Machiko Noguchi is contacted by some Marines to get her help with dealing with these predators. She originally doesn't want to listen, but then she later sees these are not normal hunters. They control the xenomorphs, so she agrees to help. At this point, the military tries to sneak their units in by night, hoping to get the drop on the Predator ship that landed. They are attacked by aliens, and their fleet of helicopters are wiped out. Any remaining survivors are killed by the killer predators. Now, as Machiko suits up with her Predator armor, she's dropped off on a planet along with a group of Marines that are accompanying her. It is here where she meets a hunter clan. She tries to speak to them, but is forced to battle one of the predators in combat to prove her worth to them. She defeats this predator and opens up negotiations. They agree to work together with Marines against the killer predators. Now, while the team discusses their next plan, some gunfire is heard in the back. Machiko and some Marines run to this location and find the predators are trying to capture a queen alien that was in the area. This queen is eventually captured, and Machiko stays with the hunter clan and acts as a translator between the predator and the humans, and they are now heading towards the location of the killer predators. Upon arriving, both sides try to mount a big attack on the killer predator's ship, but it wasn't going to be easy. The killer predators activate an EMP field around their base, and it disables the opposing side's entire fleet. Both Marine and Predator ships lose control and they try to land. A battle takes place between the aliens fighting against a team of hunter predators and some Marines. Although this joint alliance was thought to be strong, it proves to be struggling against the huge amount of aliens protecting the base. The Marines and Predators are forced to retreat while suffering some casualties. As the survivors try to escape, a remaining Marine ship tries to launch a missile attack at the killer Predator ship in hopes of damaging it. The missile lands on a part of the base and it disables the EMP stasis field. The killer predators then retreat to their ship and it takes off, but not before it got tagged for tracking. While the killer predators are being tracked, some members of their clan had died, and the Marines recovered some of their technology, including a special gauntlet used by them. It is then revealed that these gauntlets have compressed gas, and with the use of one or more special pheromones, they are able to command the xenomorphs. Now, as both the Marine and Predators close in on the new location of the Killer Predators' headquarters, the Killer Predators activate their EMP device and knock down any nearby ships. This includes the Predator ship with the captured Queen. The Queen is then set free, and the aliens turn against the Killer Predators and kill them off. As the headquarters is bombarded by missile attacks, the aliens start to attack any remaining Marines and Predators from the Hunter clan. A last stand is held off on the wing of a plane. Machiko manages to escape on a rescue ship, but the Predators choose to remain as they fight to the death. As the story ends, we get a glimpse of another killer predator located somewhere else and possibly creating another xenomorph army. So what did you think about this story? Do you think the use of pheromones is a good idea of controlling the aliens? Or do you think only the alien queen should be allowed to control the aliens? Put your thoughts in the comment section. This is the story of Machiko Noguchi, the human predator. She was born in Japan and spent most of her childhood alone. One day in summer, she finds her father around the house when he wasn't supposed to be home. She then notices he committed suicide, and he tells her that he was fired from his job. As he dies, he tells her to regain their family's honor. As she then grew up lonely, she learned to adapt, which allowed her to survive future battles. As she was determined to succeed, she landed a job in the Chigusa Corporation and works her way up the ranks. This company is considered to be just as large as the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. This company also deals with colonists on planets. She is then given an administrator job of a ranching colony on Ryushi. Her placement was in Prosperity Wells, and during 3 months she made no effort to befriend the colonists. Now at some point she gains the favor of the ranchers and persuades the Chigusa Corporation in giving the ranchers a pay raise. Machiko and everyone stationed on Ryushi is then placed in the middle of a battle between a predator hunting party that arrives to fight aliens on this planet. It is during this battle when Machiko showed a great amount of courage and strength as she fought alongside one specific predator named Dashande. She gained his respect with her combat skills and even managed to kill an alien queen. After this battle, Dashande is critically wounded and manages to mark Machiko before he dies. He gives her his mark as a sign of respect. She is also given the name Small Knife. After this event, she returns to a normal life while keeping the alien queen head as a trophy, waiting for the day when Dashande's clan to appear, as she believes they'll want to know what happened to him. The day finally arrives when Dashande's clan arrives, and she is then accepted by them when they notice she is marked, and so she becomes the human predator. She stays with them and embarks on many hunts with them. During one big hunt in search of an alien queen, a time came when Machiko dishonored a young predator named Shorty by saving him from a xenomorph drone. Shorty should have died for his own careless mistake, but was unsaved by a human, which he still considers to be unworthy of being in their clan. Although the hunt was successful in capturing a queen, she disobeyed an order from the clan leader and was then deemed untrustworthy. Even though her actions prevented the failure of the mission, she is now seen as a risk in future missions if she chooses to act on her own actions instead of listening to the clan leader. As she looks back over the years she spent with the predators, Machiko starts to wonder if this is really her place. Back home around humans, she felt alone. It seems her decision to be with predators made no difference, since she still feels like an outcast amongst them, no matter how many times she has tried to prove herself to them on many hunts. She has trouble deciding which life she must commit herself to, since she's put a big distance between herself and humanity. Now, when an experienced predator named Lightstepper crosses her path on the ship, she disrespects him by touching a colonial marine bandana that he uses as a bandage over his missing arm. Machiko is then instructed by the clan's leader, Topknot, to prove herself again by fighting Shorty, the predator she saved during a hunt for the alien queen. During this battle, Machiko's skill and speed proved to outclass Shorty for most of the battle. But then, due to outside interference, another predator grabs her ankle, which gives Shorty a chance to smash his hard skull against Machiko's human-like head. Even though she wore a predator mask during the fight, she still felt immense pain from it. Even though her opponent cheated, he still kicked her out of the ring and won the battle. Because of this loss, Machiko is not allowed to partake in their future hunts for a while. She later learns of predators hunting humans and decides to make a choice. She kills predators on the ship and manages to escape as she races to help the remaining survivors. In doing so, she has abandoned the predator clan that took her in. She manages to arrive just in time to save the survivors, and then she battles Shorty one more time. But this time, she makes sure he gets an honorable death by her hand. It's at this point she finally decides to return to a normal life and was offered a job by Livermore Evanston on Bellatrix. He owned a hunting planet and gave her position as a safari guide to take people on hunts. She accepted the job. But her new life is then interrupted when a group of killer predators attacks a mining colony. The colonial marines seek out Machiko's help. She comes across another predator hunting party and defeats one predator in combat in order to open negotiations. They agree to work together, and they eventually destroy the killer predator's headquarters near the end of the story. At this point of the story, a lone predator removes the mark Machiko received by Dashande. This then ends the human predator known as Machiko Noguchi. The story ends as she returns to a normal human life. So what did you think about Machiko Noguchi's story? The Predator self-destruct device is located on the Wrist Gauntlet computer. Once activated, the device will display symbols on its screen. It seems like a countdown timer until it detonates. It will then release an explosion similar to a nuclear bomb. Now, the blast radius has been depicted to be on a different scale in each source that has displayed it. When it was used in the first Predator movie, it was equal to around 300 city blocks. The one used in the 2004 movie Alien vs. Predator was on a massive scale. It was displayed 2 times. The first one was during a sequence that took place in the past where it wiped out an entire civilization after a few predators were overwhelmed by aliens in their final stand against the xenomorphs. It was then used to destroy the pyramid at the end of the movie. The explosion was so great that it even made the ground on the surface fall apart and cave in. It was also seen in the movie Alien vs. Predator Requiem, where the wolf predator activates this device on a fallen predator. although this explosion is very small when compared to the previous examples. It's also been seen in the video games, each one having an adjusted blast radius that is suited for that storyline. In the 2010 video game, Alien vs. Predator, the Predator in this storyline will encounter fallen predators throughout its campaign. He activates their self-destruct device to remove any existence of their species and technology. During this scene, the explosion is very small as he exits the building. Now, the self-destruct bomb is only used as a means of retaining a predator's honor when it has been defeated in battle and is unable to fight back. In the case that it is mortally wounded or unable to escape a situation, it will use this bomb to prevent other species from acquiring its technology and erasing its existence. It's possible to believe that the radius on the explosion can be adjusted when it's activated. Considering the predators are technologically superior to humans, they might have that capability. Perhaps they adjust the blast radius depending on the situation. It also has the feature to be removed from the wrist gauntlet, as it was shown in the movie in 2004, Alien vs. Predator. This further indicates that the wrist computer is not built into the wrist gauntlet, but is a separable piece of equipment. Now, although the explosion was depicted to be different in design from each source, it does share similar end results of a thermonuclear bomb. In the comic books, Dutch was described as suffering from radiation sickness after the event of his encounter with the Predator. In this event, we saw electrical surges as a sphere of mass rises up and then it explodes. Now, in other events, it's been seen to release a growing blue plasma field. Now, in Predator 2, the City Hunter did activate the countdown timer for the bomb, but it was cancelled out when Harrigan cut the device in half with a smart disk. So what do you think of the self-destruct device, and what is your favorite scene of it being used? Put your thoughts in the comment section. So at the end of Predator 2, Harrigan receives a pistol from the Elder Predator. The pistol has the name Raphael Adolini on it. Now, nothing else is mentioned about this unless you read the comic book dating back to this time period. So a pirate known as Raphael Adolini leads a band of pirates as he pillages and robs almost anyone. Although being a pirate, Raphael still has a strict rule to not rob from the church. When his crew disagrees with him, they get angered and decide to mount an attack against their former captain, who is now their enemy. Their longtime friendship separated, all for the sake of gold. As Raphael fights them off, a predator watches and takes interest into Raphael for being a skilled warrior. The predator intervenes, pulls out a sword of its own, and challenges Raphael to combat. Before the battle commences, more pirates arrive, and the two stand their ground together as warriors. When they are all defeated, Raphael and the predator stand face to face, ready to have one final battle. But before this even begins, a surviving pirate shoots Raphael in the back. This was a lethal shot, and Raphael is doomed to die. The surviving pirate lets greed get the best of him, and tries to steal the gold all for himself, but is then blasted by the predator's shoulder cannon. With his dying breath, Raphael holds his hand out and offers his gun to the predator and tells him, "Take it." And in return, the predator pulls out his own sword and leaves it by his dying body. With this backstory being explained, we now know the origins of the pistol and the words the Elder Predator used with Harrigan when he said, "Take it." Although some may say the pistol is a sign of respect, or even a trophy for defeating the City Hunter, it is also considered an honor to receive such an item from a long-lost time period. So what did you think about the story around Raphael Adolini and the origins of his pistol that was seen at the end of Predator 2? Put your thoughts in the comment section. What happened to the events leading up to the Predators movie? Well, in the comic books, a story is explained about Noland and Royce. It starts off by taking place in Afghanistan, where a man named Drake leads a team of soldiers that are trying to eliminate a target. This team is unaware that a predator is nearby. They encounter some enemy forces in a small house, and a battle between both sides occurs. As one final enemy survivor tries to run at them with explosives strapped to its body, it blows up. After the explosion happens, the team is captured by at least one predator, and they are taken to the game preserve planet. As they account for everyone on the team, 2 of their men get killed by a predator right away. They run away to hide and try to assess what problem they are in. With no time to come up with a plan, they are attacked again by another predator that kills off 2 more members of their team. As Drake buries his friend, he tries to run away to gather his weapons, but runs into Noland, fitted with Predator armor. Then our story goes to Africa, where Royce is assigned to a mission to take out a terrorist leader named Kuti. Royce accepts the mission for a hefty payment from the general. He is then joined by one of the general's soldiers during his mission, but Royce has his doubts and believes his companion will kill him when the mission is complete. Our story then goes back to Drake meeting up with Noland. Then, as Drake is too noisy by asking too many questions, Noland punches him to keep him quiet. But this results in a fight between the two. Then they see a predator in the area. They hide in the mud to remain hidden. After it leaves, Noland explains to Drake that these creatures are dangerous, but their cousins are even worse. They've been dropping people, animals, and other creatures on this planet just to hunt for sport. Drake then follows Noland back to his hiding spot, but on the way, Drake is proving to be a noisy accomplice. Noland goes on to explain how he was on a mission for the CIA. Then, when his helicopter was shot down, he was captured, and a predator refused to finish him off because he was already injured. Noland managed to survive and nursed himself back to full health and tracked down this predator and killed it, and in the process, he took its armor. Noland advises Drake the only way he managed to live this long was because he kept hiding. Drake refuses to choose this path and steals a Predator smart disk from Noland and runs out into the forest. Then we are thrown back to Royce's story. Right after he kills the man assigned to accompany him, he continues his mission. He scouts the camp where Kuti is located at, and he sees a familiar face. Travis, a man he used to work with. He takes fire and starts to eliminate his men. Then the story goes back to Drake being attacked by a large insect creature. He kills it, and Noland finds him to reclaim the weapon that Drake stole from him. They agree to work together under Noland's conditions. They head back to Noland's camp to eat and come up with a plan to fight the predators. As they venture outside, they are being tracked by one of the predators. They locate a dead soldier impaled with a predator combi stick. They use it as a means of getting the predators to track them. Noland goes off to hide while Drake is used as a distraction. As Drake runs off, the predator chases them and falls into a trap. It gets injured badly, and this time, the predator gets captured. We then get taken back to Royce's part of the story. As he tracks down Kuti and his men, he kills them all off, as it's all part of his contract to the general. Now, back in Drake's story, he is seen holding the captured predator as a hostage. He plans to use him as bait to call out the other predators. As he rests through the night, he hears something and then throws a smoke grenade to reveal the invisible killers are nearby. Drake runs away as they chase him. He uses a flare to start a fire on the captured predator, hoping the others will try to rescue him, but it doesn't work. The super predators beat up the captured predator and they continue their search for Drake. But then, the super black predator locates him. He removes his mask to reveal his true face to Drake. This predator uses this time to blast Drake with the plasma caster, instantly blowing a hole into his chest. This is where Drake dies, but not before we see Noland hiding in a tree. Noland knew all along that hiding was what kept him alive all this time. He chose not to help Drake in this encounter because he could have died as well. Now the last part of the story brings us back to Royce. After he killed Kuti, he makes his way out of the house just before Travis and his men arrive. As his men scatter to look for Royce, they are killed off. As Travis tries to escape on a jeep, he is confronted by Royce. They exchange a few words and then Royce kills him. But in the bushes, a predator watches Royce. This is where Royce gets captured and then he's dropped off on the game preserve planet. The rest of the story gets continued in the Predators movie. Now, after I saw the movie Predators, I also wondered how Noland got a hold of that Predator equipment and what his story was. So what did you think about the story around Drake, Noland, and Royce that led up to the events of the Predators movie? Did you like it? Did you think this should have been included in the film, or was it better to leave this out? Put your thoughts in the comment section. What's up everyone, Acid here. So in this video I'll be looking at the Predator disc weapon. Now, the Predator Smart Disc, which does have other names like the Smart Weapon, the Cutting Disc, or simply Disc, is mostly known as a throwing weapon. It can be used at long range, or even at close range combat. The outer edges are extremely sharp, and if thrown with enough force, it is able to cut through multiple targets, as it was displayed in Predator 2 during the meat locker scene against Agent Keyes. If a Predator plans to use it as a melee weapon, it's designed properly with firm grips. Now the Smart Disc might have some built-in tracking technology, as it was able to return to the city hunter's hands even when he wasn't wearing its biomask. Now, some video games display the Predator is able to use the biomask's tracking feature with the smart disc. The disc is also known to have some turning capabilities, to where it has some chance of changing its trajectory in order to hit its target. Although it's not a guarantee, it does increase the chances of the smart disc making a kill. Although its strength lies in not requiring energy and being able to cut through multiple targets, it does lack traveling speed. Its traveling speed seems somewhat slow depending which source you look at, but in that sense, it does seem like a balanced weapon. Now, in the video game from 2010 called Alien vs. Predator, they had a disc designed to where it would travel depending where your targeting lasers were pointing at. This eliminated the lock-on ability seen in previous video games, so it was only as efficient as a user could control its trajectory. Now, one theory for how this weapon can return to the Predator is through mind control. If a Predator can control their mental capacity high enough, they'll be able to use this skill with the smart disc. Another theory is that it could possibly be programmed to return by a button on the wrist gauntlet. Although its returning capabilities are different in the video games, this topic is still up for debate, so it's up to you which method you choose to believe. It is also believed that some Predators may choose to become disc masters, and at some level, they have trained their minds to an extent to where they are able to redirect this weapon as it travels, therefore giving them more control of where it should travel if more than one target is around. Now, some smart discs can be upgraded to have a rotating laser on the edge to increase its cutting power, thus making it an even more deadlier weapon in the hands of an elite hunter. Now, it's been seen to be stored on the Predator's right leg. It also seems like a small part of it can latch onto the armor around this area. So what do you think about the smart disc? Is it one of your favorite weapons? Put your thoughts in the comment section. So what happened to Dutch after the events of Predator? Now, during the events in the first movie, Dutch and his team arrive in a jungle located in Central America for a rescue mission. During the storyline, his team is hunted and killed off by an unknown creature. By the end of the film, Dutch battles and defeats a Predator and is rescued by General Phillips in a helicopter. As it takes off, Dutch contemplates about all the events that happened. Now, at this point, Dutch's whereabouts are somewhat explained if you read the comic books. Now, after being rescued from Valverde, Dutch starts to go through some health problems that are similar to radiation sickness. This was linked to the exposure from the Predator's self-destruct device during his mission in the jungle. Dutch is taken to the hospital for medical care, and at this point we find out that Agent Keyes from Predator 2 starts to question Dutch about the events that occurred in the jungle. Peter Keyes turns out to be part of the OWLF team, which stands for Other World Life Forms Task Force. Now, this group is part of a top-secret government agency that deals with extraterrestrial situations. Their prime goal is to capture a creature alien life form for further studying, then of course to access their advanced weaponry. After Dutch manages to escape the hospital, he disappears, and then the government agents can't get any more leads on this incident, so they choose to close the case on the incidents that occurred in Valverde. Now, the comic book called Predator: Concrete Jungle was originally titled as Predator, and was seen to be the sequel to the 1987 film Predator. Now, the main character ended up being Dutch's older brother, who was a detective in New York City. He went on to try to look for his brother and eventually had his own encounter with a predator around 3 times. Sources say he fought predators in the same jungle where Dutch did, then another one in Siberia, and also in New York City. Now, it's been noted that the Predator's biomass can record their hunts, and this data is transmitted to their ships, and from there, that data can be sent to the Predator homeworld or to other ships. This would aid the Predator species if some kind of outbreak were to occur, or if some other important matter had to be transmitted. So with the events that occurred in Valverde, this information makes its way back to the Predator homeworld known as Yautja Prime. Many Predators now hold a high level of respect towards Dutch because of what they learn. Now, 10 years later, during the events of Predator 2, Agent Keyes informs Harrigan about another similar creature that stalked and killed an elite special forces team in Central America, and there were only 2 survivors. Now, later in the movie Predators, Isabel even brings up the same story about Dutch and his team being stalked and killed. So what did you think about the small story about Dutch's disappearance? Do you think they should have included this into the storyline of Predator 2? Put your thoughts in the comment section. The story of Batman vs. Predator spanned over 3 comic books. Now, the first one starts off with a boxing match between Marcus and Bersaglio. Now, 2 gang leaders are betting on their favorite fighter to win. Marcus wins the match, and later on that night, he is killed by the Predator. Batman then goes to the crime scene to investigate and realizes this murder was very different. The victim's skull and spinal cord were removed. He assumes the other gang leader was involved, but then the losing boxer of that match and other people in his gym are killed off as well. Batman meets up with a SWAT team that's been called in to assist in these murders, and the Predator kills off one of the officers in front of them. They fire upon the Predator, but can't see where it went. Batman then becomes the focus of the Predator, but is spared. He later starts to put the murders together and realizes this killer is acting upon a code of honor when it chooses its targets. The two gang leaders named Alex Yeager and Leo Broden agree to have a meeting and discuss about who is killing off their members. This is when the Predator crashes in and kills Alex Yeager, but it manages to escape before Batman arrives. But a trail of blood leads Batman to the Predator's location. They battle each other and Batman is severely injured. He calls in for his Batmobile and escapes with at least some knowledge of who the killer is. During this time, Batman is out of action, trying to heal from his injuries, while the Predator goes on a killing spree in Gotham. Commissioner Gordon is also attacked but survives by the aid of a fellow officer. Batman is forced to fight the Predator, despite still suffering from his injuries, and his new equipment not being fully tested. Now his new auxiliary suit gives him increased strength and improved vision to see the Predator. Batman locates the Hunter, and during their battle, he used the Batmobile to transport the Predator to the outskirts of the city to continue fighting. During their long battle, Batman does trap it, and he uses a tranquilizer on it. Alfred then shows up and shoots it with a gun. The Predator escapes, and Batman finally tracks it down and defeats it by using a bat. Then its clan members show up, and the Predator kills itself with a sword after losing to Batman. Then the elder Predator of the clan takes the sword and gives it to Batman as a token of his victory against one of their hunters. Then the clan boards their ship and leaves the planet. The story is then continued as Batman and the Huntress capture a criminal that reveals there is a price on Batman's death. So his boss hired some of the best assassins in the world to take him out. And during this event, another Predator became aware of Batman's victory over the previous hunter and has traveled to Gotham to challenge him in combat. It lands in Gotham River and kills one of the assassins and later attacks the local police department. The Huntress comes in to help but is captured by the Predator, but he spares her life as he mistook her for Batman. The Predator has taken the bat signal to a place outside the city to lure Batman. Then as Batman arrives at the crime scene, he realizes this is the work of another Predator. He heads off towards the bat signal and walks into a trap with the Predator. The two have a long battle, with Batman struggling to find a weapon to use against him. Batman gets overpowered by the Predator and is knocked out. Then another assassin arrives and plans to kill Batman to collect a bounty on his death, but he is killed off by the Predator. Then the Huntress arrives to save Batman and they escape. As Batman comes up with a plan to hunt the Predator, he builds a scrambler device that nullifies the creature's stealth camouflage. He meets up with the Huntress again and they approach Terraro, who hired the hit on Batman, but then the Predator locates them and kills Terraro. Batman then locates a body of a Predator and is confronted by another one who picks up the body and leaves. This means there is one Predator that is killing off their own species and is also hunting Batman. Commissioner Gordon then plans to use the bat signal to lure the creature to them, and as it appears, they fire upon it but realize it's the wrong Predator. It escapes while the real killer finds them and starts attacking the police officers and takes one as a hostage. It's later tracked down to its ship, and both Batman and the Huntress are lured inside and the ship takes off. A battle ensues and the hostage tries to help but is killed in the process, but actually succeeds in impaling the combi stick into the Predator's chest. Then, out of desperation, it gains control of the ship and tries to leave the planet, but Batman and the Huntress fall out of an open door and land in the water. The previous Predator chases after this bad blood in his own ship and destroys it, but then two explosions are seen, indicating that both of them have died. The last story continues, with the city still suffering from gang wars. More mysterious deaths show up around the city, but this time, two Predators arrive and start killing off these criminals. It appears that an older hunter and a younger one are working together during their hunt. At the same time, Robin is now aiding Batman during his adventures, but is kept in the dark about the identity of the new killers in the city. Meanwhile, Mr. Freeze plans a robbery and manages to escape. As Batman pursues him, the Batmobile is put out of commission by Mr. Freeze and his henchmen. Mr. Freeze escapes to a frozen foods warehouse and they are attacked by two Predators. His crew is killed off, but Mr. Freeze is invisible to the Predator due to his body being cold. Batman chooses to keep Robin out of this mission so he doesn't become a target. Later on, Batman uses a helicopter to track down the predators and injures one of them, but as they separate, one of them damages the helicopter and Batman is forced to eject. While this is occurring, Robin tracks down Mr. Freeze and questions him about his encounter with the enemy that killed his crew earlier. Robin also managed to learn some information about these previous hunts through government files with the aid of Barbara Gordon. As Batman still advises Robin to stay out of this case, Robin is seen by two predators. Batman adjusts his new power suit to conceal his body heat by appearing as cold temperatures on the outside, thus making him invisible to the predator's heat vision. He was also able to shut down Wayne Tech temporarily to use it as a battleground, but manages to only lure one predator. During this battle, this predator plays back some words in Robin's voice. It's now clear to Batman that Robin is being hunted as well. Alfred contacts him to warn him, and he manages to escape an attack from the other predator. Robin makes it back to the Batcave and is followed and attacked. The predator is about to drop Robin into a hole, but then Batman appears. He gives his hunter a trophy the other predator had acquired on a previous hunt, indicating that he was defeated by Batman, and the predators had lost this battle. Now the younger predator was going through a rite of passage, and Robin was to be his target. The two predators then leave the planet, and Batman hopes their loss in battle will keep them from returning. So that covers the 3 comic books of Batman vs. Predator. I thought they were written pretty well and the art was really good. I like how they used some previous information as a way of linking the stories together. So what did you think about this? Did you like it? Put your thoughts in the comment section. If you like the Alien or Predator franchise, then subscribe to the channel and have a look around as I've done previous videos that cover things across the movies, comic books, and video games. Lord Predator was the first successful hunter to kill a xenomorph. Because of this, he became the most highly respected hunter of his time. Even 1,000 years after his death, there are current elder predators that still remember him. After he died, he was buried in the Yautja pyramid located on BG-386, which is the planet the 2010 video game Alien vs. Predator took place on. After he was buried, his technology like the biomask and his wrist gauntlet were placed in different areas of the temple grounds. As time passed by, his pyramid remained sealed off until humans located it and uncovered his wrist gauntlet from within. One of Lord's descendants named Dark had arrived to BG-386 to investigate why a previous group of youngblood predators had gone missing. Dark eventually found Lord's biomask and viewed a holographic projection of Lord's first kill against a xenomorph. Dark later continued on with his mission to kill the Pred-Alien abomination while keeping Lord's mask as he left the planet. Now, the Lord Predator skin was also playable in the game's multiplayer version by ranking up. Although the story around him is pretty vague and the mask has a neat design, it was not one of my favorite Predators, although it was nice how they tied his story into the game. So what do you think about the story around Lord Predator? Put your thoughts in the comment section. The Predator Wristblades are one of the most iconic weapons in their arsenal. Built for close-range combat, and with the ability to retract from 6 to 8 inches in length, makes it a favorite weapon amongst the hunters. This weapon is incredibly sharp, strong, and located mostly on the right gauntlet. A predator can use this to cut through flesh and bone on an unarmored target. If the odds are against the predator during combat, and if there's no other option for them, they may choose to launch the blades from their wrist gauntlet as a projectile. This was shown in Alien vs. Predator and also in Predators. Now, some movies have depicted this weapon to not be affected by the stealth camouflage, therefore making the blades visible while the hunter is camouflaged, while other sources have shown to feature the wrist blades to be fully affected by the stealth camouflage. Due to the nature of the wrist blades being meant for close-range combat, the predators see these weapons as the most honorable. Some predators may choose to hone their skills with the wrist blades that they may not require any use of ranged weapons. Now, the design of the wrist blades has changed over the various places it's been seen in, from the standard double straight blade version to the single long blade ones seen in Predators, to even the massively large ones seen in Alien vs. Predator. In the end, they all serve the same purpose. Now, during the events of the movie Alien vs. Predator, the young bloods were going through their rite of passage. The wrist blades were not acid resistant, but their combi sticks were. This encouraged them to use their combi sticks, which had more range. Perhaps this was done on purpose to make the wrist blades be a last resort for melee combat against the xenomorphs. It is also noted in this movie that the wrist blades had a feature to rotate to the other direction. Now, in the video game from 2010 called Alien vs. Predator, these predators were seen to have wrist blades on each arm. This game also showed the predators were able to use their wrist blades to open locked doors in their pyramids. This gives the indication that they have been used for non-combative purposes for a very long time. Another feature of the wrist blades was shown near the end of the first Predator movie. The base of the wrist blades have a feature to spread horizontally. Although this feature isn't explored much, it seems it isn't something that could be useful in combat. Now, in some versions of the video games, the wrist blades had to be charged up to deal a much more powerful attack. This would either result in an instant kill, or sometimes the target would be stunned long enough to finish them off. They can also be used in melee combat to block incoming attacks, like alien claws, small firearms, or even other bladed weapons. So these weapons can be used defensively. The wrist blades have been featured in almost every appearance the Predator has made. As the Predator weaponry gets expanded, this weapon will surely be seen on almost every Predator due to its many uses and being considered an honorable weapon. So what do you think about the wrist blades, and which version is your favorite? Put your thoughts in the comments section. The Celtic Predator was a young blood that took part in a rite of passage in the 2004 movie Alien vs. Predator. He was accompanied by two other Predators known as Scar and Chopper. Their mission was to reclaim their shoulder cannon weapons within a pyramid and slay any xenomorphs and humans in the process. Now, should they survive this mission, they would become blooded Yautjas. Their ship used a high-powered laser to form an entrance to the pyramid located in Antarctica. Upon arriving to the planet, they were aware of the human activity above the pyramid grounds. Mr. Weyland has a team of experts to accompany him on this expedition. He brings along a drilling team, a tour guide named Lex, an expert in ancient language named Sebastian, and a security team led by Max. As the Predators land, they killed off the drilling team, and one survivor shot towards Celtic's position and uncloaked him. Celtic then knocked him down the drilling shaft, and Scar killed him when they reached the bottom. By this time, the pyramid's core was activated and a queen alien was awoken to start laying eggs. And deep inside, Mr. Weyland and his team reach a room and take the shoulder cannons belonging to the Predators. The removal of these weapons activates the pyramid's walls to shift from within, thus creating new passages and closing off old ones. Scar Predator encounters the humans first and kills one person, but the rest are separated as the pyramid's walls start to shift again. As a few members are traveling with Mr. Weyland, Celtic and Chopper confront this group in a room. Celtic uses his net gun on Max to trap him, and as the rest are occupied trying to save him, he sneaks up behind him. He throws Lex and Mr. Weyland away while he holds Sebastian and uses a combi stick to finish off Max. Chopper confronts Lex and is about to kill her, but is then impaled from behind by an alien tail. Chopper then dives to the alien's inner jaw. This alerts Celtic to confront the alien. During their battle, Celtic cuts off the alien's tail and tackles it against a pillar. Then with the remainder of its tail, he spins it around and throws it away into a corner. Now as he charges it one more time, the alien throws its acid from its tail and it melts away a piece of his chest armor. Now during this distraction, Celtic has lost sight of the alien, but he reacts quickly as it almost leaps on top of him from above. Using his net gun, he traps the alien as it falls through the floor, and at this point, victory seemed guaranteed for the young Predator, but the alien's acid blood has started to burn through the net. As Celtic approaches, he pulls out a knife weapon, and he savors the moment, but he waits too long to strike and the alien is set free from the net. It jumps on Celtic and does not hesitate to attack. It kills Celtic right away with its inner jaw. This alien has claimed the lives of two Predators and now only one remains, and this is where the story of the Celtic Predator ends, in the Alien vs. Predator movie. So I wanted to have a video for this Predator because I like the design of his armor and mask. Now I was also fond of how tall and muscular these Predators were in this movie. Now although I really like this Predator, I was let down when it died. I would have liked to see it make it through the film and just last a little bit longer against other aliens. Now this design of his mask was also seen in Predator Concrete Jungle and as well as in the 2010 video game Alien vs. Predator, although in that game it went by the name of Hunter and not Celtic. So the last thing that I want to point out is that the design of this mask originally came from the Guardian Predator that was seen at the end of Predator 2. You can see it has some similarities, but I liked how the Celtic one turned out. It's one of my favorite masks for the Predators, and I hope they bring it back sometime. One of the scenes in the first Predator movie that caused some confusion took place near the end of the film. When Dutch, Anna, and Pancho are trying to run to the rendezvous point for the helicopter, Billy is killed off by the Predator and he is heard screaming in the distance. Now the Predator catches up to them and shoots Poncho in the head with a plasma caster shot, which kills him instantly. Right after that, Dutch kicks a gun Anna picks up so she doesn't become a target. Then Dutch lays fire at the Predator's location but doesn't land a hit. The Predator then shoots a plasma caster shot in Dutch's direction. Now this is where it seems like Dutch got hit by the plasma caster shot on his shoulder because of the injury. Now the shoulder cannon can cause massive damage to any part of the body, as has been used on previous victims. If it lands on the head or on the torso, it can burn away vital organs and a lot of tissue. These injuries can be fatal on contact, as it was shown on previous victims. Now if this weapon is aimed on a limb like a leg, ankle, shoulder, arm, or a hand, it will simply amputate it, and the victim may survive, but in this condition, most of them don't last very long. Now the shoulder cannon can increase its damage output by charging up its shot while consuming more energy. This can result in a more powerful shot that can decimate a target completely. In the movie Predators, Noland was killed off by the tracker Predator with a very powerful shot from the plasma caster. This shot made his entire body explode into many pieces. So the question I've seen asked a lot is, was Dutch hit from the plasma caster shot? Well, if you look at this scene frame by frame, we can see the Predator was trying to disarm Dutch, not shoot him. It was shown that the plasma caster shot was aimed at the weapon, not at Dutch's shoulder. And when this happened, the impact of the plasma caster shot caused the weapon to release shrapnel, and some piece hits Dutch's shoulder and then blood spurts out. Surely, if this weapon was aimed at Dutch's shoulder, it would have blown up his shoulder and left a large hole. But because this scene plays out so quick and in a few frames, it's something that can be hard to spot, and our initial reaction is he got shot in the shoulder. And seeing the injury Dutch has on his shoulder later on, it further makes some of us believe that this is where the Predator was aiming. So in a way, it seems like the Predator planned to disarm Dutch in order to hunt him a little longer. Just like in Predator 2, the City Hunter kept hunting and toying with Mike Harrigan, as if it was seeing how far it could push him. Now, if such a small weapon can cause so much damage, one can only imagine how powerful a larger plasma caster would be. In the comic books, a super plasma caster was used, and it was able to take out a dropship in one shot. So hopefully that clears things up regarding this scene. Now back when you saw this movie for the first time, were you part of the group that thought Dutch was shot in the shoulder, or were you quick to notice the Predator purposely planned to disarm Dutch by shooting his gun? Put your thoughts in the comment section. Sergeant Blaine Cooper was part of Alan Dutch Schaefer's military team. He was a skilled mercenary with a cocky attitude while chewing tobacco and spewing profanities. Now, despite his personality being more outspoken than his team members, he took his job very seriously and coordinated with his team very efficiently. Now, he was armed with the M134 minigun and showed a high resistance to pain as he continued to fight on despite being shot in the arm. Blaine appeared as the heavy tank-like member of the squad and was relentless when he was in combat. He was also seen to carry a submachine gun and a large knife for close-range combat. He also carried the team's large supply of claymores, which was used for defensive positions. His best friend was Mac Elliott. They both fought during the Vietnam War and even came out as the two remaining survivors when their platoon was ambushed in Khe Sanh. They killed off everyone and suffered no injuries. They both later on joined Dutch's private military team and had operations in Angola, Cambodia, Lebanon, Afghanistan, and Germany. Their team was then assigned to a mission from the CIA under the false pretense that a cabinet minister was kidnapped and being tortured for information. During their mission in Central America, he displayed his dislike towards Dylan, who joined the team and was assigned to assume command once they reached their objective. Normally, their team works alone, so Dylan tagging along seemed like a very unusual decision from the ones passing down the orders to Dutch. As the team landed, Blaine was seen holding a submachine gun while carrying his minigun, which was covered up. They then come across a helicopter that was previously shot down. As Billy tracks the footprints of a previous group, they come across the skinned corpses of Jim Hopper and his group. Their dog tags are still around, and Dutch wondered why they were in this area. The team then follows the guerrilla trail back to their camp, and Blaine takes out the minigun, which he calls Old Painless. Blaine and Mac take out the guards on the outside of the perimeter that are perched on a nest. Dutch starts an attack, and the team moves in and eliminates everyone. Blaine uses the minigun on multiple targets as the group advances on the camp. After their objective is complete, the team starts to head toward a rendezvous point. Now along the way, Hawkins was killed by the jungle hunter, and the team then spreads apart trying to find his body. It's at this point where Blaine becomes the hunter's next victim. The Predator used its spear gun, and the shot grazes his shoulder. Now the shot merely immobilized Blaine, but then he's killed off by a plasma caster shot in the back, which burns and leaves a giant hole in his torso. His body was later reclaimed that night by the hunter, who slipped by the trip mines and flares. This is where the story of Blaine ends. Now, Blaine was one of my favorite characters in the movie. He had a strong will and was loyal to his team. He even took a bullet for his friend Mac when he was under fire. So the actor Jesse Ventura was actually a real-life Navy SEAL before he became an actor, and his character in Predator was the first person in film to ever fire the M134 minigun, but it was later used in Terminator 2 and also in Predators. So what did you think about the character Blaine in Predator, and what was your favorite line from him in the movie? Put your thoughts in the comment section. The Predator laser mines were used in the movie Alien vs. Predator Requiem. During the Wolf Predator's mission to kill the aliens and the Predalien, he tracked them down in a sewer where he placed laser mines on the exits. Hoping this method would prevent the aliens from escaping, he threw himself into a situation with the odds against him. Now the laser mines are attached to a surface, and then they emit red lasers that have incredible cutting power. Although it's seen to cut through an alien very easily, it's also known to not penetrate surfaces like floor, walls, or ceilings. Now this might indicate that it is only able to cut through flesh or other life forms. It was also shown during this scene that a plasma caster shot would not interrupt a laser field, and its energy was simply absorbed by the lasers. Now these mines have appeared in the game Alien vs. Predator, which came out in 2010, but they were strictly proximity mines. Now there was a feature to detonate them prematurely, but it was rarely ever used. The mines function the same way they did in single player and multiplayer. Now I can see why they chose to change the mine in this game. Considering how this game was designed, it would be very rare to get a kill with a laser mine, so it's best to change them into proximity mines. Now this weapon was also used in Predator Concrete Jungle. Scarface used different versions of this weapon that could be useful in different situations. Now all these variations on the Predator mine seem to be used sparingly, and it's not something that Predators rely on when you consider how often they use their other tools, like for example the biomask, wrist blades, stealth camouflage, and shoulder cannon. It seems the Predator mines are very situational, or perhaps it's because they don't have that many of them, which is why they choose to use them sparingly. Either way, I really liked seeing it in Alien vs. Predator Requiem, and they were also fun to use in the video games. So what do you think of the Predator laser mine, and which version do you like the most? Put your thoughts in the comments section.